So for me, the question around sustainability is always about what we are trying to sustain. Are we trying to sustain the existing system, or are we trying to sustain ourselves? And I think obviously we're trying to sustain ourselves and a livable, habitable, bountiful biosphere around us. So in that sense, sustainability and well-being are completely inextricably linked. So in order to kind of lead for that sort of transition of finding a more sort of wholesome, sustainable and fun world, then we need to find both courage and compassion. But we also need to have credible ideas about what that future we're aspiring to is going to look like. Well-being is a very broad term because you can't look at any of the different aspects which I think constitute well-being in isolation. So, we need social connections, we need a sense of community, belonging and identity. I think those are really important. Equally, we need to have some kind of viable economic system which provides for us, which gives us some income that can be interpreted very, very widely. But also, perhaps most fundamentally, the thing that underpins it all is the healthy environment, and a viable ecology and beautiful, bountiful nature around us. And if you can bring all of those three things together, then that's a definition of well-being that I think would inspire and engage most people. I run and co-founded, a specialist sustainability communications agency called Futerra. And I did that because I believe business has a really key role to play in the transition. And it's not about getting a job, it is kind of about finding the passion, the thing that excites and inspires you, and working out perhaps how you might make a viable living out of that. For me, the solutions do come from the fact that leadership is becoming a collective act, that you have to take others with you, and that, collaboratively we are much stronger and more compelling. And whilst you might still need the odd inspirational figurehead to galvanize that type of change, it is going to have to be about mass movements, and that's most mass civil movements, mass movements within organizations, and mass movements even in a kind of trans and international basis. There's still a sense of denial, I think, about the scale and urgency of the challenges that we face. I still think that denial manifests itself in several different ways. It's the sort of disavowal, it's not my fault. There is the projection, it's someone else's fault. And the classic regression, someone else will fix this. And I think those three different elements of denial are an important part of our psychological defenses, which do hamper our ability to kind of forge a new style of leadership that might be required. That said, I think if we can overcome that denial and the fear of making mistakes and looking slightly stupid, because we're going to have to do some experimenting, then, with the right courage and compassion, we can forge a very different path.